Play the guitar on the MTV. That ain't working, that's the way you do it. Money for nothing and your chicks for free. Now that ain't working, that's the way you do it. Let me tell you, damn guys ain't dumb. Maybe get a blister on your little finger. Maybe get a blister on your thumb.
Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. Oh, let me grab my mic over here so it's not as much of an echo. Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining. Today, we're going to be talking about finding wildly profitable STRs. So first off, as people are joining, the numbers are still climbing up. Let's hop over to the chat. Let me know where your current, if you have a current short-term rental. If you don't, where are you looking? What markets are you interested in? Let me know in the chat where your current STRs are, Airbnbs, or what markets you're interested in. I don't care. Let me know where your properties are at. As we're about to start, a couple things of housekeeping. Catskills. All right, there we go. Page, Arizona. Danny, I love Page, Arizona. I love Lake Powell. So hopefully the water levels, I haven't looked into that in a minute. Hopefully the water levels are better than they were a few years ago because that was a real problem. But so good. Yeah, good morning from SoCal. All right, we got some people from California on here. That's awesome. Elizabeth's got two small STRs in college towns. Which college towns, Elizabeth? Texas, Blue Ridge or Blue Ride. Never heard of Blue Ride. I assume that's Blue Ridge. I'm messing with you, Zach. All right. Currently have two STR. Okay. More Blue Ridge. Awesome. Looking for markets that cash flow at least 50K. Well, Cy, that's a problem because we're going to be talking about properties and markets that cash flow 100K or more. So, let's raise the bar a little bit. Anyway, I'll give you some examples. Don't worry whatsoever. Where are you guys? Like, if you're joining, because we still got numbers climbing, where are you calling in for, or not calling in from, excuse me, where are your STRs or what markets are you looking into? Okay, we've got another person from New York. They've got Richmond, Virginia, got Northern Wisconsin. More SoCal people. I love it. I love seeing my California people on here. I'm not from California. I just like to see more West Coast people. I am an East Coast person. I live in North Carolina. Branson, and we got some more California locations. Awesome. Smokies. There we go. Finally, someone from the Smokies. More California. Man, Indio, California. All right. We've got a good Cali presence, representation out here. I love it. Looking for your third in the Smokies. Okay, good luck. We've got Bourbon Trail. Whoop, shout out to the Bourbon Trail owners. And we're going to talk about the Bourbon Trail a little bit today. Gulf Shores, Alabama. All right. Murrells Inlet, South Carolina. Those are beautiful areas, Sandra. I'm sure your properties are really beautiful. All right. Let me get this stupid thing from scrolling. All right, guys. We're numbers are still ticking up, but let's jump into it today. Okay. Ashley, nice. You've got looking at Raleigh, Durham, and MA College. I actually live in Raleigh. So, I've only been here for 3 months. So if you have any questions about the area, probably not the best person, but I can send you to someone who knows the area well. So, anywho, okay, I'm going to bring in my screen here. And I actually want to start. Actually, you know what? Let's do this first. Boom. Okay. Let's start with a story because stories are great ways to start. Now, I want to tell you about a client I worked with about over a year and a half ago. So his name's Brian. He came to me and he was like, Kenny, I have a high W-2 income job. My family's doing well, but I'm in upper level management and they're down the pipeline due to some regulation changes and things going on in the economy and in his business. He's like, I think our company is going to take a huge hit in the next year or two and literally go from making, 15 million to half of that, like 7 million or 7.5. And, he had a small company or whatever. And he's like, we need, I need some alternative. I need to create some sort of other wealth and I want to do it through real estate, but the long-term rental game is just it's too long. It takes too much time. And I need something that's going to help me grow grow income. I'll put in the effort. I'm willing to invest, but grow income in case something does happen with my job or my business. And all of a sudden, next month I am not making any money. And so he's like, I obviously have looked into short-term rentals, and I know short-term rentals can be lucrative, but there's a lot of information out there, and I said, okay, well, like, what do you mean by that? And he said that there's a lot of people talking about, Airbnb is dead, the crash, Airbnb revenue is down. Kenny, you've even said it on your videos and your podcast, revenue is down. I'm even still saying it today. So why should I invest in short-term rentals, and is it still a lucrative option today? And I said, sure. And I gave him some examples, and we talked and we looked at some properties, and he's like, okay, this is cool. But I asked him, I said, you've got this goal and you want to net 100. He needs to net at least 400K, and he wants to do it over the next 2 years. So this was a year and a half ago. So we're approaching the almost 2 years. So we've got like 4 or 5 more months. 400K net from all the short-term rentals. And he doesn't want to buy 10 properties. He wants to buy 4 properties. That means each property needs to net a minimum of how much? $100,000 net, not gross, net. Okay. So he's coming to me and he's asking me, he's like, Kenny, I need you to help me. And I'm like, first off, why don't you just go to a realtor or an agent or somebody in one of these markets? And he's like, I've done that. And I'm like, great. Well, like, what's going on? And he's like, I'm getting conflicting information. They're hyping up numbers. They can't actually provide me real data. And they show me maybe like, oh, what properties have done in the last few months and what they're projecting to do. But I'm not actually getting the numbers broken down to prove that those properties can do 100K. And he's like, also too, they're only showing me, wherever their market is. And I have to keep calling and looking in many, many different markets. And frankly, I don't have the time to do that. That's why I'm talking to you. So I have been helping this person, Brian, for the last 2 years. And we have found properties. He has properties that net over 100K. All right. I'm going to show you some of the properties. I'm going to show you my properties. I'm going to show you some other properties of other people too that net over 100K or 100K or more. Okay. And that is the whole purpose of the story and this whole presentation is how the heck are we finding these in today's market? Because the truth is they're hard to find and they're not in obvious places. Okay. I'm going to break down the markets for you. All right. Now, a common misconception is the areas in the markets I'm going to give you is where you can find a property today, right now on the market for sale that's going to net you 100K. That's not how this works. Okay. I'm going to let you down right now if that's what you're expecting. If you're looking for a top 10 list, the top 10 markets where you can find deals that net 100K, you are not going to get that. It's not going to exist. Because it's not about the markets, it's about the properties. It's about the attributes of the properties. That's the lesson. That's the takeaway. Okay, so who am I and why is any of this relevant? So for those of you who don't know me, and if you don't know me, it's nice to meet you. My name is Kenny Bedwell. I am the founder of STR Insights. We used to be purely just a data company, but now we do a lot of consulting and coaching and mentoring on how to find profitable properties. Now, not everybody is going to be able to or afford to, and you're going to find out why in a second, properties that net 100K. I mean, we look for 50K, that's fine. That's a reasonable goal. Okay. And some clients' properties, they net 20K and they're happy about it. The goal isn't to talk about those types of properties. We want to talk about the ones that net 100K. So why am I qualified to talk to you? So first off, this is, top 2 shots. I don't really show my family off that often, but I have 2 girls. They're 4 and 2 years old. We now live in Raleigh, North Carolina. We used to live in Buffalo, New York. I was there for about 7 years. I worked at Citibank there, and then I quit about 3 years ago. And so I have a heavy background in data and analytics. So everything I'm going to tell you today isn't about hype, isn't about just paying $300,000 and boom, you're going to get a property that's going to net 100K. It's about actual data and pattern recognition, okay, that anybody can do. You don't have to have a special database like me to find these types of things. I'm literally going to show it to you and break down the numbers. If you haven't noticed, I also love to wear really fun dad shirts. Okay. So you can see in some of if you follow me on Instagram, you can see some fun videos. And I do some pretty ridiculous stuff for fun because honestly, I hate social media videos and I'm like, I might as well just be ridiculous in them as well instead of, trying to make them boring. So, but my favorite passion, my favorite thing to do is to teach people how to find deals. And that's why we're here today. Let's jump into it. Okay. So, first off, experience-wise, because obviously you've just found out that I'm, a human being and relatively probably goofy, with some of the shots there, but I'm really freaking good at this. Okay. I've been helping people find deals for over 4 years now. I have deals. We're going to look at them. I help people find deals. I even have a hotel. Okay. I'm in this but I love sharing that journey and breaking it down for people because I see people time and time again struggle to understand how to achieve certain things like finding these types of deals. And they tend to copy what other people are doing and they end up failing because they're not putting their own spin on it or they're not taking and understanding the data. They're just copying what somebody else did who was successful many years ago, but you can't find that same type of success today with that same strategy. So I have personally helped over 200 people find properties across 28 different states. And the states don't really matter because I look everywhere. It's not just 28 states, but these are where the states are at. It's probably 29 or 30. I need to recount, but it's been over 4 years since I've been doing this. So I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm talking about and I know what to look for. And I would just want to share it with you guys. And more importantly, I am going to share with you my latest purchase that I haven't told us. I've told a couple of my clients the market. Okay. But I'm going to break down the market that I just bought in and we're going to launch our property soon. The reason why I haven't told people that is because I don't want this happens all the time. Every time I buy a property or I'm looking to buy a property and I tell people the market, guess what happens? People go to that market and they assume that they can just buy something because Kenny's buying there. No, I want to show you, I kept it very quiet. I haven't revealed this on my podcast. I have a podcast called Cash Flow Positive. If you like podcasts, go listen to it, or my YouTube channel, Cash Flow Positive. But here's the thing. We're going to break it down. I'm going to unveil that market for you. And it doesn't matter about the market though. It's about the property. Okay. But the market is really good. And we'll talk about that market. Okay. So, finally, before I jump in here, at the end of this workshop, spoiler alert, I am going to tell you about a program I'm running where I'm helping a select number of people find these types of deals. Okay. Now, this isn't just like some open-ended program or a course or anything like that. I'm literally working one-on-one. I believe one-on-one in understanding where people are at by their name, building a relationship is how to speed up and accelerate success. And I'm going to show you how to do it. But if you're interested in talking more and getting that more one-on-one attention from myself and my team, because I do it with a team and myself included in it to give you that appropriate attention, then I will show you how to do that at the very end of this education. And if you're like, I just want the education, great. At the end there, just heads up. Don't be mad at me when I show you that. All right, let's talk about defining wildly profitable. Remember the title? Finding wildly profitable deals that net 100K or more, net 100K plus. What does wildly profitable mean? So in this specific example, wildly profitable means netting 100K, okay? But to be frank with you, netting 50K could be considered wildly profitable. Netting 20K could be considered wildly profitable. It's kind of an ambiguous term, and it's based on the person. Some of us, with the strategies I'm literally about to teach you, are not going to be able to pull off 100K net property. And you're probably fine with that. You're probably going to look at that and be like, yeah, that's either too much money or I don't have the time to do exactly what he's telling me to do, even though it's not that much money. That's fine. I get it. We all have busy lives. We all have, we might have families or jobs or whatever we're doing, and we don't have time to pull off these things the way that we do it. Okay. So wildly profitable, I want you to remember this. Wildly profitable varies person to person. So, but today I'm focused on 100K net properties. So where I look and what I'm looking for will be different than if you were to come to me and say, Kenny, I'm okay netting 50K. I'm okay netting 25K. then I would say adjust the markets and tell you, yeah, these other markets are better for what you're looking for. Okay. Now, a little bit of housekeeping. If you have questions, please put them in the chat. I will try to get them as I'm going through there. I'll try to pause at certain times and answer the questions as we're going through, especially, and do the best that I can. If I miss it, I'll put my email in the chat at the very end, and you can send me an email and I can give you a better answer. Or I might say, hey, let's just schedule a call and talk about this, because it's a little more deeper than me like going over something for a minute. So anyway, just heads up, a little bit of housekeeping there. All right, let's keep going. So the very first thing that I am looking for with properties that are going to net 100K are markets where this is possible. Okay. Here's some data. Who likes data? You guys like data? There's over 12,000 vacation rental markets in the country. 12,000. That's a lot. Okay. Now, are all 12,000 of them investable? No, there's regulations. Some of them are in the middle of nowhere. In fact, most of them are in the middle of nowhere. Some of them are not near like true vacation drivers. And some of them, it's just not a good idea to invest in. So when we actually break down the number of markets that are truly investable, especially from a sense of 100K, remember we're focused on the 100K net. The reality is the number really starts to dwindle in my experience, it's less than 1,000. Okay. Now, if you're like, Kenny, give me a list of 1,000 markets. Number one, that's way too many markets for you to analyze and to really dive into. And number two, I don't really have the list. Okay. I look at certain attributes of these markets, and that kind of gives me an idea based on the data in our our big database that says like, okay, this is roughly the number of markets that are quote unquote 100K net potential. So what are those attributes that I'm specifically looking for? I'm going to skip some of these slides and come back. So number one, I'm always looking for properties that I'm looking for markets that are drivable. Okay. Most markets that have properties that net 100K. Okay. That net 100K are not fly-in destinations. Most. I'll say that one more time. This is very important. And I will probably get somebody who will argue with me on this one, but I'm telling you, most markets that net 100K are drive-in destinations, not fly-in. What's the difference? So fly-in destinations, think of like big popular markets like Nashville or Scottsdale, Arizona, or Miami, or, more like urban. Is typically fly-in. There's some vacation rental markets that are more like, Hawaii, for example, is fly-in. You don't drive to Hawaii. Those are, you're like, okay, cool. Now, markets, it's not just big markets. Like the Smokies is not a fly-in market. You have to fly somewhere, then drive. And that's the idea, right? So we need to make sure that the markets we're trying to target they're actually drivable. Now, another little caveat to this. If you buy a $5 million property, okay, and let's say it's a good deal, it will technically net 100K, but it was also a $5 million property. And I don't know how many people here can afford to buy a $5 million property and you only want to net 100K. That's pretty low standard. And so my standard, especially for this presentation, and it has to be mentioned, is I am specifically looking for properties that are less than, my parameter is 800,000 to 1.3, but don't worry about the range. Focus on the number. Less than 1.5 million that nets 100K. That's a really freaking good deal. Less than a 1.5 million purchase price that nets 100K or more. Those are only going to be in drivable vacation rental markets. Okay. Now I will show you kind of an exception, but it still kind of fits. But anyway, we'll get into that in a second. Okay. So we got the drivable. The next step, B, 3 to 4 hours from a major city. And I usually like to see 2 to 3 hours and from at least 2 major cities. Why 2 major cities? Demand. Okay. The more cities, the more population centers that are nearby, or the number of people essentially, the higher the demand and the higher the revenue potential, which is actually D. I'll come back to the nearby traffic drivers in a second, but I am looking for markets when I'm trying to find markets that are, highly profitable or wildly profitable. They're near cities, okay, 2 to 3 hour drive, and they have properties that are generating high revenue. What does high revenue mean? In this case, over $200,000 in gross income. Okay. If you're looking at a market and if you're looking at data and there are no properties in that particular market you're looking at that generate over $200,000, regardless of the size, regardless of the purchase price, regardless of any other factors, if no one's generating $200,000 or more, how the heck are you supposed to net 100K? You're not. So that eliminates a lot of markets, especially a lot of small markets where there's not a lot of high traffic. That's why it ties into the cities and it ties into the drivable. The next thing, and this is more of the duh attribute, are the traffic drivers. There has to be nearby vacation rental traffic drivers to bring people to that area. The properties that we're going to take a look at, some of them are more like, we call them destination properties, meaning they have lots of amenities, they look pimped out, and people come there to stay there, and they probably don't really leave that often because there's so much to do at the property. Whereas other properties we're going to look at, they're not destination properties. They're cool properties, but they're just really, really good deals in high traffic vacation markets that have a ton of traffic drivers. Like maybe they're near a really big popular ski resort, or maybe they're near a beach, or maybe they're, in this popular mountain market. Whatever it may be, the idea here is finding that markets that have the traffic drivers and the people with properties that have the revenue. And then finally, the most important one are local resources. This one is really, really, really tricky. Okay. I bought some land in Arizona in 2019. This is one of my failures. You can poke fun of me when you see me next time in person or whatever on a call. You can always bring it up and make fun of me for this one. I bought some land in the middle of the desert in Arizona and thought it was a good idea because it was near the Grand Canyon. For those of you who've never been to the Grand Canyon before, especially the south rim of the Grand Canyon, the most popular entrance, it is literally like in the middle of nowhere, like several hours in the middle of nowhere. And I bought maybe like 30 minutes outside of the Grand Canyon thinking like, oh, well, there's all this traffic coming through here to get to the Grand Canyon. And that was true. Okay. It checked definitely this is drivable, the Grand Canyon. And there were some properties in the area that were doing really, really well. But what was the biggest problem? It was actually E, which is local resources. There were hardly any cleaners at all. And most of the properties in the area, even the ones that were doing really well, had really bad reviews for cleaners. And they weren't just using the same cleaner. There was probably like 2 or 3 main cleaners and they all sucked. Okay. Like that's not the type of host I want to be. To have a successful property, you need to not only find good deals, but you need to operate them correctly as well. So that's really important. The local resources and the boots on the ground is very, very important. So buying this piece of land, I realized quickly after I paid for an architect, after I contacted all these contractors and all this stuff, I realized that I didn't have the appropriate local resources to pull this off successfully. Therefore, it wasn't a good market and a good investment for me. Now I own some land in the middle of the desert that's just sitting there. It is appreciating, but it's just sitting there. So lesson learned, right? Local resources, revenue, drivers, 3 to 4 hours from a city, drivable. Okay. I'm going to skip that. Now, let's talk about this moat concept. This is my term. I use this all the time, and I say my term. I've coined it for short-term rentals. What is a moat? A moat is something that separates you from your competition. The biggest problem with short-term rentals today is everybody is literally copying each other with the types of amenities and the types of things that they're adding to their property. The people who are a little more innovative, meaning like, I'm going to add this first, they typically do well, especially in competitive markets, but then it tapers off over time because the curve follows. Everybody else like picks up on it and they go and they try to replicate the same thing. The problem with the amenities arm race, where you just keep adding amenities, is that other people can copy it and it's not a true moat. And so when we're looking for wildly profitable properties, one of the most important things you can do is you need to find a property that has what I call a moat. This can be a physical moat, meaning like it's in a really cool location or it literally has a moat around it, or it could be the property type. It could even be the deal structure too. I mean, one of the properties I'm going to show you, the sellers, it was just it's kind of a sad story and a sad situation. And it's not like, oh, we took advantage of them, but they were just desperate to get out of the property. And we got a really, really freaking good deal. Other than that, there's like maybe one or two things you could classify as like decent moats, but it's still not like a perfect moat. But because the purchase price was so freaking good, the property is going to net over 100K. And we'll break that down in number wise. But the reality is that properties that net over 100K have a moat. They have something that separates them from everybody else. So when you're studying your markets, when you're looking for properties that are going to do this, the property needs to have some sort of characteristics that will help you be different than everybody else. Okay. Now, it could be location. All right. That's the most popular one. But the problem with location is you usually have to pay for it because it's so obvious. Meaning, if I'm going to be beachfront, I'm going to have to pay for beachfront, right? And everybody knows that's the most desirable thing. Therefore, they're going to charge for it. So location is it's a great moat if you can get the best price. Okay, that's example location. We'll talk about property type. Another really unique type of moat that can work too, and this is like extreme examples, are property types. Like this is a cave property. This is like the glass house in Joshua Tree. This is like a literal castle in the Poconos. This is a tree house in Blue Ridge. And this is an A-frame in upstate New York. And so like the A-frame is not that wildly different, but in this area, it is. There hardly are any A-frames in this area. But you can tell with each of these different properties, they're unique in themselves, meaning that there aren't a lot of cave properties or mirror glass properties or, tree houses or whatever in these markets that, separate them from the competition. And furthermore, you're thinking like, I would never do this because this is cool, right? Everyone's like, yeah, shake your heads. It is cool. And this is kind of cool too. And maybe this is cool. Differing opinions on the castle thing and the A-frame. But the reality is the complexity to pull this off, you're probably like, I would never be able to do that. Boom, that's a moat. That's a big time moat. If 95% of people look at this and go, that's really cool, but I have no idea how to pull that off, that you found yourself a moat. Okay. That's what I want you to get thinking about. It doesn't have to be this extreme. And I'm going to show you some non-extreme examples, but you need to think about like, what's the 5 to 10% of what people are looking like, what 5 to 10% of people actually going to do that the other 90% aren't going to do? Because that's how you separate yourself. If you just buy another cabin in the Smokies, you're not going to net 100K. If you buy another cabin in the Smokies with an indoor pool, you're not going to net 100K. That's unless it's like 3 or 4 million or something. And even then, good luck. Okay, let's go back to amenities. So the last type of moat, and this one we'll sit on for a little bit, are amenities and design. Okay? You need to be careful with this because amenities and design can be copied. It's not just about loading a property with really cool amenities and design, and then there's your moat. There needs to be other factors in play. So when we look at properties that have really cool amenities and design, we have to ask ourselves, what other attributes does this property have that can separate it from everybody else? And that's what I'm looking for too with the type of properties that I buy. And that's exactly the strategy that I love to go after. Okay. I'm going to show you 2 main strategies that I use in a second. And this is one of them. Okay. I look for properties that are fairly basic, maybe, like if you look at, so like this is one of my clients' properties in North Carolina. This is actually my property in Frankfort, Kentucky. And then this is another, you can't even see it, but it's another one in another market, but one of our clients. But if remove all the cool stuff, okay, all the lights and everything, when you look at the houses, do they wow you? Just the physical structures of the house? No, they don't, right? So there's no property type moat, right? But when you look at the amenities and you look at the aesthetic and everything they offer, you're like, that's really freaking cool, right? And then as you dive into each of these, you're like, wow, that's like really unique and stands out and has these certain attributes about them that makes them unique. And that's what you have to figure out because the properties themselves really aren't that crazy, but it offers the potential to do it. So this one's actually lakefront. You can't tell from this side because the lake is facing the other way. This one's also got it's a pond, but it's cleaned out. You can have paddleboards, a dock, all this kind of stuff. It's got 5 acres of land, 2 hot tubs, a custom mini putt-putt, theater room, yoga studio, a gym, also a gym, a game room with a golf simulator, like just stack. All these amenities in a property that has this potential. This property didn't come with all this stuff. This was added. It was envisioned. And that's what the 90% aren't going to do. They're lazy. They want to find the turnkey property. They want the property that's already furnished or already ready to go or just needs one or two extra things. Those properties don't net you 100K. It's the blank slate with the raw potential that nets the 100K. I got 30 minutes. I don't know if I'm going to tell the story. I don't have a lot of time. Let's talk about one. Let's look at an extreme example, and then I'm going to literally hop into some of the recent ones that are like real live, all that good stuff. So going back to this idea of like boring houses that have raw potential, it's doing what the 90 or the 95% don't do. So this cabin was purchased for I forgot the number. I should put it on the slides. It's like 300, 320 or something like that. It generated this is in the Smokies. It generated $120,000 of gross income, not net, gross. It netted because the debt service is so low, meaning that there's it's a $300,000 house. Okay. The property netted last year $84,000. Okay. Not quite 100, but the concept I'm about to share with you still applies. So $84,000 net on a 300 purchase price. And look at this cabin. Does it have views? This is in the Smoky Mountains, known for the views and the park and all the good stuff. No views, no indoor pool, nothing else. Look at the outside. It's boring. This is one of their shots on their listing. How the heck is this thing netting $84,000? It's a sex dungeon. Okay. Now, I'm probably going to lose like 10% of the people watching this because they're like, oh, you're telling me no, I'm not. But this is a very extreme example of a property that none of you are probably going to do this. Okay. Because you're probably not comfortable doing this, but it does super well. 95% of people won't do something like this because it's just, I wouldn't do this. I would not personally do this. This is not my thing. And that's okay. If it's not your thing, don't do it. There's other, like I said, I'm going to share legit examples. But the lesson that I want you to take away from this is because I won't do it and you won't do it and the other 95% of the people on this won't do it. Oh, we actually got one more person listening in on this than it was one more person joined than before. That's awesome. I thought I'd lose some people. I showed this one. Because 95% of the people won't do this, this property stands out and it's very unique and it has a moat. Can this be copied? Absolutely, it can be copied. But people are uncomfortable copying it. Therefore, it is a moat. Now, you might have questions about cleaners. And I did a whole podcast episode with this lady who owns this property. And if you're interested in it, go to my Cash Flow Positive on iTunes or Spotify. And I call it like unique houses that make a ton of money or something like that. It's with Ashley Guy. She lives in Gulf Shores and she has a couple of these properties around. And they're very, very successful. Remember the numbers, $300K purchase price, $84K net. That's insane. Okay. And it's just got a moat. Now, probably not the moat that you want to create or I want to create, but it is a moat. All right. Let's go into, let's look at some other examples. Okay. That are probably a little more relevant because now you get the concept, you got the lesson. It's burned to your brain, be unique, do what the 90-95% aren't going to do. But how do you find your strategy and find your moat to be able to net 100K? Okay, there's two ways to pull it off. All right. I'm looking for the third or the fourth or fifth way. If I can find them, I will. As soon as I find them, I'll let you know. But right now I found two ways to pull it off. Okay. Now, here's the thing with each one of these ways. It's a preference, but the same lesson applies. You have to invest into the property. Ashley invested into the property. The property did not come like this. In fact, if it did, that would have been really creepy, right? the reality is like you have to invest into the property. Now, I think she told me like $40,000 or $50,000. This is a 1-bedroom cabin. $40,000 or $50,000 to invest in all this. That's really not that much. But she had to invest in the property. She had to have the vision. We're not going to ask what kind of vision or any other questions on that, but she had to have the vision to know like, okay, what are we going to do here? And then invest into it. So the 2 strategies that I want to break down for you. So let's do the first one because this is probably going to be the least popular one. I'm going to spend more time on the second one. Is what I call it a stir. Okay. Stir, if you've heard of BRRRR before, like it's a type of real estate investment play where you buy, you renovate, or rehab, you refinance, and then you repeat. Okay. I call it stir because you turn them into short-term rentals and you renovate, and you refinance, and you repeat and do the next one. But let's talk about this property here. Okay. Now, okay, so let me point this out. Conway, New Hampshire. Who knows where Conway, New Hampshire is? Somebody in the comments chat. Put something in the chat. Does anyone know where Conway, New Hampshire is? Awesome. We've got one. So Conway is near a ski resort. North Conway. There's like a whole little area there. Yes, Sai, it is. I saw your question. Sai asked, let's do this. I hope you asked her on the podcast you did with her. I did. It was actually it was a really fun podcast episode. I just go back and look for Ashley Guy. It's a part 2 episode I did a couple months ago. Really, really fun. And go watch it on YouTube because I like go through all the pictures and stuff too. And we talk about it. It's fun. Really nice lady. Just a lady. It's like, you'd never expect her to be the lady, be like, yeah, we have a sex dungeon. There you go. It's the quiet ones, right? Just kidding. All right. So this is the property in, so Conway's near a ski resort. Great. This isn't slope side. Don't remember location. No moat. Look, I mean, this is a pretty boring looking house, right? Not that exciting. Maybe for you, people who like historical homes, you're attracted to this. It's like, okay, cool. Like, but is it really like, wow? Are you saying wow to yourself right now? You're not. Okay. Or you shouldn't be. And look at the inside. Is it wow? No. And in fact, it needs some work. So how is this $560,000 home? Look at this kitchen. This is a kitchenette and the spare apartment. Okay. A little hint there. How is this $560,000 home going to net $100K? What do you think? So when you dive into the pictures, so let's back up a little bit. It's listed as a 5-bedroom, 4-bath, 4,000 square feet, 3,900 square feet. That's pretty spacious for a 5-bedroom. It kind of tracks. I have a 3,700 square foot house that's 5 bedrooms or 6 bedrooms. But when you actually dive into the property, and I'm just going to show you this, there's a 3-car garage with a bonus apartment above it with another bedroom and a full kitchen. You saw that kitchenette. It's kind of dumpy, but it needs it. And then when you look at the floor plans, I'm going to show you this real quickly. 1, 2, 3, that's bedrooms. And then you have, it's 3 floors of the main house. And then you have, this is another floor, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is like the attic, or I think this is the bonus kitchen area, I think. So 8, and then technically 9. So they actually have 9 bedrooms labeled in the floor plan. But the problem is they're not legal bedrooms. They couldn't list 9 bedrooms here. Okay, so you see where we're going with this? Well, guess what? Unfortunately, it was actually just completely mislabeled. This is illegal. There's legally 8 bedrooms in this property, and they mislabeled it as a 5-bedroom, which made the seller's agent, who didn't do their due diligence, lower the purchase price to be at a 5-bedroom. Okay, so all right, cool. That means there's some value add here, meaning like we're going to get some equity by just buying low. And this thing's been sitting on the market because it looks like a dump. No offense to them. And the sellers, were, they were ready to retire, and they were already moved out, and they were trying to sell this property. They had it listed at at 600, and we bought it. So this is after the fact. It's sold now. Recently sold. We bought it at 560. We offered 560, and they said okay. So we were looking at this though, and we're like, if we renovate this, how much would this be worth? And so we pulled comps in the area, and Conway's a very old, traditional Northeastern ski market, very like established traditional ski market. So it's got some unique attributes, but it needs some loving, right? We brought contractors in. We did a bunch of due diligence. $200,000 is going to be was the quote we got to do the renovation, to make it legally 9 bedrooms, to get everything in, update the kitchens, the flooring, paint, all that good stuff. That's just the renovation. Then we're going to furnish it and everything. That's probably going to be additional $100K. So, we'll set that aside for now. But with the renovations, $200,000. Okay. We got the appraisal back, and it came in at 930. 930. So we have, based on 560, we have what, $390,000 of equity, and only 200 of it we're going to invest into the property with renovations. So that leaves us $190K in equity that we could pull out if we wanted to. Okay, now you can't pull it all out, but you get what I'm saying. Now, here's the thing though. If you don't pull it out and you run this, if you run 9 bedrooms in Conway, they generate over $200,000. That's pretty good. But with a low debt service, meaning your mortgage payments are going to be lower for a typical 9 bedroom, because this is you bought it at $560,000. So assuming you don't pull any of the equity out and you leave the equity in the house, and you just keep the current operating costs, but it's now a 9 bedroom that's generating over $200,000, your net is over $100K because your expenses are lower, because your debt service is lower. Now, if we bought this for $930 and it generated $200K, that would still be a good deal, right? Like, yeah, anybody who buys a $900,000 home that generates over $200,000, that's a pretty freaking good deal. And most of you would jump on that, but your net wouldn't be $100K. It'd be closer to like maybe 50 to 60, which is still good, right? But we're talking about $100K here. So the secret to this strategy is just finding properties that you can renovate and increase the bedroom count based on square footage, and that was another thing too. That apartment, this apartment up here, they weren't counting as livable square footage. So the square footage, like we're calculating it to be closer to like 5,000 square feet total, rather than just purely 4,000 or 3,900. So there's opportunity here where we're finding a deal that's way undervalued. We're doing a big renovation project on it. $200,000 is a big renovation project. Okay. Like, that is pretty big. So the pro here is, wow, you have a bunch of equity. You have forced appreciation is what we call it. Okay. You have a bunch of equity. And if you don't pull it out, you're going to have low debt service, meaning a low, mortgage payment, considering this is now a 9 bedroom for 9 bedrooms in the market. And then you just increase your revenue. Beautiful. Last thing I want to talk about on this property. Okay, cool. Well, I can go around Conway and just do this myself. Sure, you think you can, but here's one of the things that we looked for in the moat that nobody talks about. So a lot of the ski properties in this area, where's that picture I had? I found it earlier. It was at the bottom here. Here it is. A lot of the ski properties in this area are all next to each other. This one has privacy and it has some land. So if it gets really competitive, if everyone's trying to copy us, they run to Conway and try to do the exact same strategy, because somebody listening on here will try. They don't have this kind of land. So we can add different types of amenities. Like we could do, obviously we're going to add a hot tub, right? There's no hot tub here. Maybe a barrel sauna, you could even consider putting in a pool, a pickleball court. You could add a bunch of stuff, but this is raw potential. This is what I'm talking about. Okay. But the deal is already done based on the appreciation play. Guys, we're finding these deals all over the place and investors are missing it. This property was on the market. Let's see. Let's scroll down here real quick. I'll show you this. Okay. Listed for sale. This property was on the market for 3 months, right? Or two and a half months. Why did people miss it? That's 60 days on the market. People missed it because they're not looking for potential. They're not looking for how can I like get this value add? How can I like take raw potential and turn it into something awesome? Meaning I have to have vision to do this. They're not looking for that. They're looking for turnkey, beautiful properties on the ski slopes that, oh, wow, this is already done. All I have to do is add furnishings. Those don't net 100K. You got to think different. Got to think different than the 90 to 95%. Okay, cool. That's strategy number one. Let's dive into strategy number two. So I just got this property in April. You can see it right here for $975 in Fort Worth, Texas. Okay, new market. Red alert. I haven't told anybody that yet. So consider yourself honored. Real quick. Conway, did it meet your criteria of a 200K market? Yes, it did. There are properties there, Brad, that are generating over 200K in Conway. So yes. Did you have to expand the septic capacity to handle increased bedrooms? Yep, that's part of the renovation. Multiple ADUs on the property. Technically, maybe I already answered that one, like going through this, but yeah. So it's really like it's really cool too because you can separate. And I found that properties that are like separated that have like ADUs do really well with groups because people like to be, although they like to hang out together, they also like to be private together. They don't want to be next to each other in bedrooms and stuff. So Sanjay asked, are you planning the New Hampshire house's entire home or on STR? Yes. Yep. It's entire home. Cool. Let's talk about Fort Worth, Texas. Okay. Talk about this deal. I think we've kind of answered all the questions there. All right. So this is a property I bought in Fort Worth. Okay. So here, let me give you my frame of mind. Now, if you are looking for your first STR, I don't encourage you to go buy in Dallas. I don't, because this is definitely more of an advanced experience play. I don't like the term advanced. It's more just an experience play because it's not really 100% proven out yet. The thing in Conway, it's just a renovation play, right? We forced equity. We bought it low. Great deal. Boom. If you could do that for every property, you'd be a millionaire, right? So multimillionaire. But the reality is like this one is different. Okay. And it requires a little bit more capital. So what I was doing is I was looking all around Texas and I was like, man, there were some really cool properties in Houston and Austin and San Antonio, like pimped out amenities. You've seen them online, where they've got all like the pool and the murals and the pickleball courts and all the cool stuff. And I'm like, why the heck is no one doing that in Dallas? Like I looked at Dallas and I'm like, is anyone doing this in Dallas? And I'm like, no one's doing it. Why is no one doing it? Is it just like not the revenue drivers there? Like, no, there's literally two mega cities next to each other. The people are there. The demand is there. So what's going on with Dallas? And as I dove deeper, I found that Dallas has insane regulation for the state of Texas. I was actually pretty shocked. Meaning every single municipality around Dallas, not just Dallas itself. And I'm not telling you to go invest in Dallas. It's not the answer. But every single like little pocket, all the towns all have unique rules and regulations. Okay. Some allow short-term rentals, but under certain requirements, like, oh, we only allow short-term rentals that are 4 bedrooms or less, or occupancy of 10 people or less, or the entire neighborhood, 75% of the neighborhood has to approve your short-term rental permit, which is never going to happen. Right? Which makes it really, really hard to find a property in Dallas that could make sense. So when I started figuring that out, I was looking at the properties. I was like, so if I figure out how to find one that fits the rules and makes sense, will it do well? And I started looking at revenue, and I was looking at the properties. They all look like farmhouses with millennial gray on the walls, nice pools in the back. Like that's it. No big time amenities. And I'm like, man, I really need to look for a property that's maybe a little more private and secluded. And then I found 3 properties, all generating over $400,000 in gross rents. They definitely net over 100K. They probably net 200K. And one is in Anna, Texas, which is way over here. One is like Stephenville it's actually past Stephenville, way over here. And one of them's over here south of Waxahachie, or I think I said that right. Waxahachie. Okay. Not in Dallas, not in the city, not even up here where all the airports and stuff are, or where the new Universal Studios is coming in Frisco, but way over here, and way over here. And they're making over $400,000. I was like, well, tell me about these properties. And I clicked into them and they all had crazy amenities. And I was like, okay, the revenue is there, just not the supply. The demand the revenue is a good indicator of demand, meaning people are willing to pay, high ADR rates and book these places with crazy amenities. Therefore, demand is there, and there's just not enough supply. Cool. Let's go find something. So we found this house in Fort Worth, outside of Fort Worth, because you can't really do it in Fort Worth. Anyway, the rules thing. Remember that. Always use ChatGPT to understand, hey, can I STR legally in this area? What are the rules? And ChatGPT will tell you. Quick little nugget for you. Fort Worth, Texas. So it's right outside of Fort Worth, not in the city, just kind of like the weird, town or in between the city and the county. So we got this property, 5-bedroom, 4-bath. Now, we turned it into 4,800 square feet. This is a pretty big house. We turned it into a 7-bedroom, 4-bath. Okay, so I'm not going to go through all the pictures. Well, I guess I can. I'll scroll through them quickly. So it's actually a really nice house. It has a pool. It's on 2.5 acres. I love acreage. We converted some of this space into another bedroom, and then this space into another bedroom with redoing the windows because they were old. Redoing the kitchen countertops. We didn't redo the flooring. We kept the flooring the same. Because guys, I want to be honest with you, I hate renovation projects. Although I'm super excited for the clients who bought this property, I personally I don't do renovation projects. I do some of them, but I can only handle a certain amount of them. And at the rate we're buying these properties, I can't handle full renovations of this magnitude. It would be so expensive because we're going to inject a ton of amenities and funds into this property. And I'm going to show you in a second. So it's already relatively updated, right? It's got even this like cool little, unique jungle thing in it, swing and all that fun stuff. And it had this shed. Okay. And this is where I want to sit with you guys. So we're like, wow, this property has a ton of potential. Now we just need to apply the vision. So we found a team that we were going to try out to set up this property and everything. And the problem was we let them do a pass through. We said, what designs would you do? What amenities would you add? What would you do? It's funny when anytime I ask someone that, they always come back to me and they're like, well, what would you do? You're the data guy. What would you do? And I'm like, I want to hear your thoughts first, and then I'll tell you mine. So anyway, we heard their thoughts, and it was like, hey, you have this like shed in the back here. What can we do with it? And they said, let's put in a hot tub, a cold plunge, a spa, and or like a barrel sauna, and call it like a wellness retreat. And I'm like, that's not who we're really going after for our guest avatar. We're really going after families, and we really need to like make this a cool place for families. What can we do to make this, because this is a 2.5 acre lot. We have one neighbor. Okay. You can't even see because the lots are so big and spread out. We have one neighbor, 2.5 acre lot. We have all this like raw land and potential and space. There's a garage. There's also this little shed garage. It's not a shed. It's actually a pretty big 2.5 car garage. It's a big, I think an RV can fit in here or something. But anyway, it's pretty tall. So pictures don't do it justice. What can we do that's not just the typical hot tub, barrel sauna, cold plunge trio and add a pickleball court and call it quits? So we really looked at this and we said, okay, well, you don't want to do that. The designer said, let's do a game room. We're like, well, we're doing a game room inside, but they're like, no, let's do something better. And so we're talking about, okay, well, we'll add some arcade machines and we'll add, we'll do shuffleboard. We'll throw in a golf simulator. We'll do all the, the typical amenities package you see in game rooms all across the country. And I'm like, no, let's make it unique. Let's make it special. Let's make it that the 90% won't copy. Someone's skating rink. I think it's a little too small for a skating rink, but I like where your head's at, though. That's a decent idea. Somebody said pickleball. People are putting pickleball everywhere. That's not unique. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be mean. But like the pickleball, you could do pickleball in here, but you could do it outside too. That's not really that unique. I'm talking like take something, not just one amenity, but take that amenity and then take it the extra mile. What can we do and how can we do it? So I really sat down and I went on Pinterest. I went on Google. I went on Airbnb and looked in other markets. And I really tried to like dive into like this idea of making this a really cool like hangout space and turn it into something cool. Now, this is a rendering. It's being worked on now. Our property is going to launch supposedly at the end of this month. That would be a miracle. I think it's going to launch in the middle of August. But anyway, I will share what it turns out to look like. But it's going to look like this. We're paying 60 grand for it to look like the picture I'm about to show you. But keep in mind, burn this shot into your memory. So we said, let's do a golf simulator. And I did some research and I said, how about instead of just adding a bunch of games and crap like everybody else, let's really go all in on this golf simulator. And instead of just making it a typical golf simulator, let's see if there's like unique golf simulators. I'm not talking about the multi-game ones. I'm talking about ones that are maybe curved or more like an interactive experience. Something that looks good because I'm going to market this property, take good photos of it, and try to sell it to guests on Airbnb and sell the experience, right? So I said, let's build this into the wall and let's do a curved golf simulator and do some cool lighting and let's do flooring. It's in Dallas. Let's do like the football, like the yard line flooring and, you know, do some like cool seats. And the designer said, stop, say no more. Let me come up with the idea. This is what we came up with. I guarantee you, half of you said, wow. The other half were like, wow. Or the other half were like, that's impressive. Okay. It's a wow shot, right? Now this is, okay, I get it. It's a rendering, but it's going to be this. We also have a Jumbotron here. Stadium seating. We sacrificed the pool table. We sacrificed the shuffleboard. We sacrificed the arcade machines. We don't need those things. Now, we are adding other amenities to the property that will make up for not having like just a really, you know, game room with all these different games in it. But the point is we went all in and we elevated it. We went the extra mile, the mile that the other investors aren't going to do. Curved, okay? Curved and built into the wall with the lighting. How freaking cool is that? And if it's not, you probably just don't like golf. It's just fine. I don't like golf either, but like this is really, really cool. Okay, it looks cool. So, and that's the point. You want properties, you want amenities that look cool, not just check boxes. Oh, I have a hot tub. Check. I have a pickleball court. Check. Guess what? Other people can do the exact same thing. They can add the hot tub. Check. Pickleball court. Check. Those aren't unique anymore. Now, are we going to have a hot tub? Absolutely. Let me go back. Let me go all the way back here. If I can find it. That's another good example too, but we're out of time. Oh boy. Okay, I don't know where the overall layout is. There it is. So we're going to have a little putt area. We're going to have a fire pit. We've got the pool. We've got a little jungle gym. We have the pickleball. We have the hot tub. We spent a lot of money doing this. I mean, this is not, and I'll show you the pro forma. But that stadium room, that's the hero shot, ladies and gentlemen. That's what's going to sell the property. Not the pickleball court, not the pool. I mean, yeah, those things will help contribute, right? It's all these things like stacked together because it has raw potential that we had a vision and we're putting it to life. That's how these things break down. Let's look at the pro forma. Okay, show me the numbers. This property was bought at $975. We did get some seller credits, so you know, it brings some of the costs down. But anyway, that's why the closing costs are a little bit lower. But we paid $21,000. These are exact numbers. So we are spending $350,000 on design, decor, and amenities. Okay, so I apologize for flying through this. I know it's a lot to look at in the spreadsheet. So we are all in at about $500,000 on this property, including our down payment. Okay, so $350,000. So if you want a property that nets $100K or more, you either need to find what? A property you do a renovation on, or a property that you're going to add really freaking cool amenities to. It's as simple as that. That's the two strategies. I know that's not like, oh, wow, that's like groundbreaking. It's not. But the lesson is You have to be willing to invest in the properties, and you have to be willing. Was Conway, New Hampshire on your radar before we had this conversation? No, it was not. Or maybe one of you. Was Dallas, Texas on your radar as well? Probably not either. Okay. The next area I'm looking at is Flagstaff, Arizona. Is that on your radar? No, it's not. Not until I just told you, right? These markets are heavily trafficked, have the numbers, have all the attributes I'm talking about, but nobody is talking about them. I'm looking in those areas and I'm finding these types of deals. Okay. Anyway, what other numbers? Revenue. So let me break this down. In this area for 7 bedrooms, there are 7 bedrooms generating over 300K. I am very conservative on my numbers, meaning I need to see multiple data points to feel really good about something. So I always run a good, better, best, or like average, or, like worst case, middle case, best case scenario. Okay. So at the worst case, I was like, what if this thing only makes 225? What are we going to do? What about 250 and then 275? No, do you see 300 in here? No, you don't. Okay. Because 300 there were properties doing that, but I think it's like, maybe we could do that. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. Depends on how the market is. We've seen a little bit of a dip in the market. So I'm kind of adjusting and just being conservative. Look at my cash on cash goals for freaking $500,000 into a deal. I'm still getting about a 20% return. But look at my cash flow goal. Look at this. Cash flow. It's 97, 120, 143. It's going to net over 100K. And even in my worst case scenario, it's going to net, 97,000. Still close, right? So that's the property we're doing. Let me show you the last one. This is one that's actually live, because theoretically I get some of you going, well, Kenny, that's all like, you haven't launched it yet. You haven't done it yet. And that's true, but I know what I'm freaking doing. Here's the Kentucky one. I kind of showed an image of this one earlier and you saw it. So this is ours. It sleeps 28. This property is in Frankfort, Kentucky. It's massive. This thing's like 10,000 square feet. It is, what do we have it as? A 9-bed, 6.5 bath. There aren't many houses that have 6.5 baths in them. Sometimes they have 4.5, maybe 5.5, but 6.5, this thing's huge. And we have 2 hot tubs, a heated pool, a custom mini putt-putt. And let me show you that real quick, because I think that's really, we have a game room. We didn't do the cool thing with Golf Simulator because we didn't have to in this market. That's not our focus. Our focus was the outside. Okay. And you can see design, decor, all that great stuff. But look at the mini putt-putt. We did a custom bourbon themed mini putt-putt. I posted a picture of this on Instagram, and like everyone from Kentucky I knew and hosted Kentucky, they're like, where did you get that? And I'm like, I'm not going to tell you that. This is one of my moats. We had it custom built from Texas, brought into Kentucky because no one in Kentucky could build this or figure out how to build it apparently. And we paid like 20 grand for it. But it's freaking cool. Look at the little horses and the little, barn and the barrels and all that. Like, that's really cool and unique. We don't just add amenities to add amenities. We get very strategic with the amenities we add. And sometimes we don't need to get crazy with it. Like going back to the Golf Simulator in this property, it's not really a wow. And it doesn't need to be a wow in this instance. Here it is right here. Here's a Golf Simulator. Cool, right? But it's not a wow. It doesn't need to be a wow. Here's a stat I want you to walk away from this conversation. 13 photos. The average guest only looks at 13 photos before deciding to book. Okay? 13 photos. So, do I need to have 100 photos of really cool plate designs in my property? No, I don't, because the average guest has already made up their mind by the time I hit 13. So not every single space needs to be really cool, but certain spaces do. And we got really picky on what and where. And that's where we get strategic, and that's where we set it apart. So we launched this property in April, beginning of April of this year. It is netted. So we're at 125 in actual, like we took, so I projected, and here you go. Let's start with the numbers. P-Ridge, here it is right here. So $1 million. We had to put a lot in the property. We had to do some little bit update. We put a lot more than we did in Dallas for sure. 475, which is a lot. $1 million. We put 4% in closing costs, all this great stuff. But it was $1 million property. Okay. These are the numbers. 260, 329. Okay. He must have changed that. I didn't put that there. My business partner put that. I don't, that's our, they think they're going to do this on the property, but look, at 260, it's going to net $118,000 at 260. This thing has already, it launched in April. It has over 190K on the books right now. Okay. That doesn't take into account any other bookings we're going to get into the rest of the year, which we're still going to get bookings, right? I mean, we just launched this thing. It has $190,000 on the books right now. We're going to blow this out of the water. I think we're going to end up in this range. I think 300 to 350 at this point. When I ran this pro forma, it was changed already, but I ran this pro forma at 225 to 300, and it's going to blow 300 out of the water. So 190K already. This month we made like 70K in July. Insane numbers on this property. I couldn't even believe it. And here's the thing. The data wasn't like, oh, Kenny, you're going to make 350. The data was saying like, oh, you're going to make like maybe 250 to 300. And that's what I felt good about. And it still made sense, even with all the money put into it. And it still would net over 100K at those numbers. But we're going to do more than that. Okay, that's the type of property you want. That's the type of deals that you want. And they are all around the country in areas that are popular and people are going to, that meet all the criteria I just talked about, but people aren't ranting about them on social media. People aren't, oh yeah, some realtors hyping up some market that they're, going off on in that they're only in. These aren't secret places. They're all around the country. It's about the property and the potential. So, and this one's in Frankfort, Kentucky, another random place. So these types of markets and these types of properties do exist. It all falls into one of these two categories. You either do the renovation play with a low debt service, meaning your operating costs are lower. If your operating costs are lower, your cash flow is going to go up, right? That's like just simple math. So you either do that, or if you're like me and you hate renovations, you do the amenities, but you'll look for the property with the moat, the thing that can separate you from the competition. Now, if you're like, Kenny, well, what's your moat here? We have 5 acres of land. We have 6.5 bathrooms. We have a heated pool. We have 2 hot tubs. We have a game room. We have a theater room, a yoga studio, a gym, the mini putt. We have frisbee golf. We have a putting. You can't even see half the crap that we actually have. You can see all this stuff listed here. Properties can have a pool and be this size, but they're not going to have the bathrooms. Properties can have the bathrooms, but they're not going to have the heated pool or the hot tubs or the theater room and the gym and all these different attributes. We stack, and we've created a moat that way. At $1 million, that's just such a hard find in this market right now. So $1 million property with all of these attributes for everything that we put into it. If somebody tried to literally copy or build the same thing, they'd spend way too much money and it wouldn't be a deal. That's what you're looking for when you're trying to find properties that net 100K. All right, let's wrap this thing up. So I want to give you some homework. Okay. In fact, I need to pull up the actual, I'll put the link in the chat here. I'm going to, why is this my channel? Give me 1 second, guys. Dashboard. I want you to watch this video, and I want this video furthers this conversation, not netting 100K, but how to add certain things to the properties to create your moat, because this is the secret sauce. It's not adding the typical amenities. I had a conversation with somebody yesterday about this. They were like, I'm going to add a pickleball court. And I said, that's cool. What are you going to do with the pickleball court? And they're like, I'm just going to add one. And I was like, is that going to be your big thing on your property? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, cool. What happens when your neighbor adds a pickleball court too? And their neighbor does. And their neighbor does. You're in an amenities arm race. I don't play that game. I play chess, not checkers. How do you play chess? Make the pickleball court freaking cool and something that no one else can do. So what they're going to do is turn it into a glow-in-the-dark pickleball court. And they're like, they have no idea how they're going to pull it off, but they're going to spend the time to do that. And that's what the 90% aren't going to do. They're not going to spend the time to figure that out. And that's what we literally help people do, is figure out not only the properties, but the moats and the amenities they need to add to separate themselves and be ahead of the competition. So I told you at the very beginning that I'm doing something special in the month of, well, kind of now in the month, starting in the middle of August. and it is called the STR Launch Blueprint. So in the STR Launch Blueprint, this right here, I work with 15 individuals one-on-one. In this program, I personally work with them because I can't 15. That's it. I can't do more than that. I have zero time for more than 15. It's hard work, even with 15 people, because we're looking for really cool properties like the ones I just showed you. Okay. Notice like half of the properties I showed you were mine and the other half were clients, because I'm also investing and they're investing and I'm helping them find these types of deals and breaking them down with them. Okay. It's one-on-one, right? You work with myself. I say one-on-one, you're working with myself and my team. So it's actually, you get a lot of one-on-one time, but it's not like just simple group learning. Hey, come join this big course or this big, I have nothing against masterminds. I have nothing against courses. I personally don't find them as helpful as one-on-one mentoring and attention from someone who knows what the freak they're doing. And hopefully by now you feel like, or you understand that I do know what I'm doing. And it's a 3-month program where we're going to sit down with you and actually teach you the process and walk you through the process and actually help you find a property and go through the works and handhold you through the entire, not just, hey, we found you a deal, but here's what you need to add to the property. Here's how you be successful. Here's how you underwrite it. Here's how you know it's a good deal. And we're also going to give you support afterwards too, to make sure that you get the return that you're looking for. Okay, there's a lot of people selling crap out there. I will tell you, there's a lot of people that go out there and they sell properties, but they're not held accountable. They're not, because, I mean, frankly, they can't, especially agents. It's their fiduciary responsibility to kind of remain, but they're not following up with people. They're not like, hey, how's your property going? How are the numbers? What can we do to help you? That's what we're doing in this special blueprint program. It's actually it's technically a year. So we have 3 months of intense, let's find you a deal. Let's get the amenities. Let's get everything set up and let's do everything. And then we break it down into, we actually do, where's the other thing too? So we meet, so you meet each Friday with myself, and I'm going to teach you how to find and do these things. And then we have our team as well that's actually going to be sourcing for you too. So I'm going to be helping you underwrite, help you analyze, help you figure out the amenities and have that conversation about your specific property. So long story short, if you're interested in this, if this sounds like, hey, yeah, Kenny, I would love for you to work with you or figure out, what that looks like, then I want you to schedule a call. Okay. I'm going to put the call in the link in here, and I'm just going to put this here too. This is the link here. But I'm going to put the link in the chat because most people can't even see it. or you're on your phones or you're at your computer and you can't scan the QR code. So learn that the hard way a couple of times. Here it is right here as well. Grab some time on the calendar. Let's chat about it. Let's see if this is something that makes sense for you. Okay. Now look, if you're like, Kenny, I don't have the funds to net 100K. I get it. That's fine. 50. Remember, wildly profitable is variable per person. 50K is great. It's going to be based on your goals. But if you're ready to do this, if you're ready to take it to the next level, find 100K, then we need to be having the conversation. I will save you so much time and effort doing this program, this one-on-one program, and breaking it down for you. A few little other things to add on to this. What I teach you is not only like, cool, here's a property, but where we found the property, how we ran the numbers, how we underwrote the numbers, how we figured out the amenities, how to catch the vision in the dream. Okay, when I say vision, I say catch the vision in the dream because it's catchy. But what I'm talking about is, how do you come up with these ideas like my, dang it, it's gone. But like my stadium room. How did we come up with that? Where did that come from? Now, obviously we used a designer. Okay, cool. But the reality is the designer didn't think of that themselves. And designers are really creative, but they're focused on the interior. They're not focused on necessarily coming up with unique amenities. How do you come up with things really crazy and unique? I'll give you another example. This is one of our clients' properties. We said, how do we take a hot tub and not just have a hot tub, but make it look really, really cool? We put a geodome over it and put some LED strip lights around it, and boom, now we have a really unique hot tub that stands out. This is the conversations that we're having. These are the types of properties. We find the properties that stand out that have the moat, and then we add the right amenities, but not just when I say add the right amenities, put a hot tub, but make them unique and marketable. This is really a marketing gig. It's not a, like, with is what I mean. You're really trying to market your property and sell the experience rather than purely just, selling a property, selling real estate. And that's what that's what the 90% don't get. Okay. Schedule a call if you want to chat. All right. I'm going to go over questions, generic questions. We don't have to start. We can talk about the program. We can talk about the properties, numbers, whatever you want. Put your comments in the chat and let's talk about it. Okay. I'm just going to go down here. I will post them and then we'll talk about it. Okay. Sorry. We got a few questions. DFW is very regulated. Yes, it is. Trust me. It took me a while to find some property that could work there. Kenny, I was understanding Fort Worth yes, that is correct. The city of Fort Worth does not allow short-term rentals, single family homes, but outside of it, for example, there's a lot of cities like this where it's like it has the address of the city, but it's not actually in the city. So the rules don't apply to that property. Okay. So is it in the city limits? It is not in the city limits. Therefore, it does not have those short-term rental regulations in where this property is located in Fort Worth. But there are other areas. where you can STR. It's just about finding the right property. What are your thoughts on sub-2 real estate creative financing for STRs? Oh boy. Okay. So if a property could be sub-2'd, if a short-term rental can be sub-2'd, you have to ask yourself, why is it being sub-2'd? Right? Okay. So the reason why is because it makes a terrible short-term rental. Now, if it's really unique and it has a moat and maybe the owner doesn't have the capacity to invest into the property, then yeah, that could make it a really good sub-2 deal. But most sub-2 deals do not have a moat and they're being sold because they don't make actually good short-term rental profit. That's my experience with it. So although they have attractive interest rate and terms and less money in, all that good stuff, it still needs to cash flow. It still needs to gross. So if it can't hit the money, then it doesn't matter how sexy the interest rate is. It doesn't make sense. And most of those properties don't. Out of like 20, I'll see one that can potentially make sense. Is it going to net 100K? No, not unless you spent like, $600,000 or $700,000 into it and put something crazy in there. But the reality is it's not going to net 100K or maybe 50. So anyway, pickleball, skating rink, bowling alley. We can't wait to see it. How do you pay for or finance all the extra upgrades and amenities? Okay. It's a good question, Matt. So a couple options. Number one, you just have money to do it, right? Okay. It grows on trees, right? Just kidding. Number two, a lot of times with the deals that we buy, we get what we call seller credits or concessions. Okay. Meaning we buy a property at, for example, the one at 975, we got 75K in credits. Meaning that we bought it for 975, but the seller gave us $75,000 back at the closing table that we could use towards improvements of the property. So that was a way to increase our cash position without having the actual cash in the deal. We're just financing that through the loan of the property. So that's one way to do it. All the extra upgrades and amenities. Another way to do it is find other people's money, right? OPM. So that's I've done that before. I did that with my hotel. I put $0 in. I raised all that money myself. So what I recommend is if you're in a position where you don't have a lot of liquidity and maybe you don't have a place where you can get a lot of liquidity or investors to get a lot of liquidity, number one, the seller credit thing's helpful. But then number two, the other option is start small, get really successful, and build a successful, like just one property that's really successful and really cool, and broadcast that on your social media. Tell people about it. And I guarantee you, people will come out of the woodwork you never would have thought, who will come to you and be like, if I gave you this money, could you replicate the same results? That's how you do it. That's the secret. Trust me, I can't tell you how many people I've talked to, how many of our clients that come back within like 6 months and like, I'm ready for the second one. I'm like, where did you get the money to get a second property? They're like, I bought this one. We did all the design. We did all the amenities that you told us to do. We launched it and I've got this, and all my friends saw it and they want to invest in a property too. So we're going to come back with another one. And it's none of my money. I'm like, well, that's awesome. Good for you. So, and then 6 months experience. That's it. So it's about finding success with what you can afford. So you got to buy a property. You got to have basically a case study, and then broadcast it, show the journey, show the experience, show going through it. And just like I just did with the Fort Worth property, right? I'm going through it. I'm showing people how to, what we're doing with it, our vision, and people are invested. They're going to want to see the final product. And then they keep following. They're like, hey, maybe this Kenny guy knows what he's talking about, and I should, I want to work with him. It works. That's how you do it. Yes, it is my place. Who's the designer? So for the Dallas Fort Worth property, we are using STR Cribs. So, will the whole building be knocked down to construct? No. We're not knocking down anything. I don't do that kind of stuff. So they're just building in there. It's actually a really good solid structure, and the concrete was really good. Not too many cracks or anything. So we're actually drywalling it and finishing it off, putting heating and cooling in there, putting the lights and building in everything to do that. Flagstaff is a thought for me because of proximity to the Grand Canyon. It is. I'm not going to say anymore because I literally don't want everyone running there right now. So we'll just leave it at that. What is the average stay and occupancy you expect for the Dallas property? I think it's going to be, it's a bigger property. So the occupancy rate's going to float between maybe 60, 65, maybe 70% on the high end. So 60 to 70%. The average stay, I imagine, is going to be 3 days. So, I mean, obviously weekends during, certain parts of the year will be that's it. But then during the high season, it'll be a little bit longer. So, okay. Question about the program. With your program, does your team not only find the deal, but also pair us with people to, yes, we do. We do everything for you. So I called it's an STR launch blueprint, but we call it the 95% done for you. The 5% is the actual buying the property. I can't buy the property for you, but we've got a ton of people who can do renovations. We know a ton of really good designers, and they're all proven. Meaning we've used them time and time again, and especially in certain markets. So if you were hey, I'm buying in this West Coast market, I would give you a different list of designers than maybe ones in Kentucky or other places, because they have more experience and I've seen what they've done. So you get proven people in each of these markets who are going to, that we recommend. And that's not just renovation. It's lenders. Sometimes loans get tricky in some of these markets, and so you got to have a good lender. So we'll recommend, hey, yeah, these are some good lenders here. Realtors, if you need a realtor, anything you need, you just ask. Hey, I need cleaners. I need handyman. I need a photographer. Okay. And we literally give you any of those people that you need. And if you don't like them, we can go find somebody else. So sometimes it's hey, yeah, this person, I don't really like the designs from this person. Do you have somebody else? Absolutely. We have a lot of people that we can recommend that we've used in the past. And a lot of them they've done our properties. I've used Revity, I've used STR Cribs, I've used other designers. I've had good experiences and I've had really bad experiences too. And I share those, and I make sure our clients don't have those bad experiences to the best of my ability. So now if you use somebody that you choose and I don't know, good luck to you. But I know most people in this space from doing this so many times with people. Okay. Awesome properties with the KY property. How many channels is it listed on? It's listed on 3: Booking, VRBO, and Airbnb. And crazy enough, I know, right? Airbnb only shows 4 reviews. But when you think about it, when you think about the guest avatar there, it's an older crowd because it's the Bourbon Trail. People are going there to drink. So we do get families and stuff, but it's mainly older people. So when you think about older crowd, where do they book? On Booking.com and VRBO. So most of our bookings are actually on VRBO and Booking.com, and very few on Airbnb, which I get, but I was a little bit shocked by that because I'm a big I'm on Airbnb, but literally, like you said, 4 reviews. I mean, we've been sitting at 4 reviews for Airbnb for about a month. Just haven't had any Airbnb guests, specifically Airbnb guests at that property this month. It's all been VRBO and Booking.com. So really, really interesting. Okay, so who is this call with? No right answer. Just wondering. You were your closer. So you meet with someone on my team. Think of me as a Sweta. Is that Sweta? Something I don't know. Sorry to mispronounce your name. So think of me as a physician or something. If you want to go talk to a physician, you talk to someone at the front desk first. They want to vet, make sure that this is a right potentially right fit. And then you will meet with either myself or someone else on my team, who like one of the consultants. So the people who are going to be like running this whole thing with me, and then you will meet with me at some point. So we will talk if you do the program, either before or like during. We will definitely talk, and I will learn your situation, be having conversations with you, and hopefully get to know you. How much is my program? So definitely schedule a call. I'm going to tell you flat out how much the program is. So the program costs right now, if you schedule a call and you go through everything, it is $12K total. We charge $6K up front and $6K upon close of the property. So $6K to have skin in the game, $6K upon close of the property. And we try to wrap everything up through the loan, through credits or concessions to help offset those costs as well. So if you're thinking about it, if you net $50K, $100K, and you only paid 12, but you got it wrapped up in your loan, that's a pretty good deal, right? And that's just from 1 year. Do you help finding VA? I do, actually. I'm really good at that. So in our community that you get access to, this is the community with people who've been through the program. So after you graduate, we put you to our graduate community. We have a whole thing on like how to find VAs. Now, I'm not going to find a VA for you, but I give you the training and all the SOPs and everything on how to like do it. Most of our clients are busy. They don't have time. So I get it. And it's like, look, you need a VA. Here's how you do it. So most of our clients actually hire VAs to run their properties for them. Help manager. Yep. So the SOPs are here. Literally, like it's like 8 different things on like how my VA teams run my properties, and literally just copy them and give them to your VA. So hopefully that's helpful there. Awesome. Thank you. What sort of free cash available do you find clients need? I get the whole 0% CC thing for furnishing, but for closing on a property so it depends on the financing. So you need to talk to a lender, Ashley. So in my opinion, like, you're probably going to be like minimum 10% down. But like if you're looking at a property from 800 to 1.5, remember, pick your strategy, pick your poison. If you're going to do a renovation, like a BRRRR loan thing, then you actually don't need as much capital unless you want to fund that out of your own pocket. There's different types of loans that will allow you to do that, renovation loans. So like, for example, the client that bought that one in Conway, they're not paying the $200,000 out of pocket. They're using a lender to cover that because of the equity play. So that's less cash out of pocket. So like if you came to me 800 to 1.5 million range, let's assume you could do a 10% down loan. If you can't do 10%, 20%, then you need to tack that additional amount on. I would say you're going to be looking at, I would look in that range for you at like 250 to 300. That's how much cash. Now, if you don't have that money, that's fine, right? Like if you have 200,000, great, but we're going to be looking at closer to like 750, in that range, maybe 900, probably not going to net 100K, but that's okay, right? Like still netting 75K is really good on a 750 to 900K deal. So just, it is kind of based on your capital and what you're comfortable doing with the property. If you're not comfortable renovating and you only had $200,000, we're going to have to talk and talk about market expectations. And we do that before you even start with the program, by the way, because I do not sell people on dreams. I don't. I'm very realistic. I'm like, here's what's possible. Here's what's doable. Just do this. All right. How hard is it to manage properties in areas from where you live? Do the VA training and the team. Really easy. None of the properties that I own are even close to me. So if something happens, I have to rely on other people, which that's part of the business. So it's about hiring the right teams and getting the right people in the right seats. That's what we teach you how to do. I've got 1 minute, then I have to hop off. And on Conway, our STR regs changing. They are, but this is also similar to the Fort Worth deal where it's like right outside the city limits. So it doesn't really apply to the city limits of Conway. So with 100%, do you think the market is going to become a seller's market? In some markets, it will be a seller's market. It'll be a lot more competitive for deals too. That's why it's really important that if you're trying to buy this year, you need to start now, because it's going to get people procrastinate to buy properties until like around September, and then it gets insane. And so that's when it's going to be harder to find a deal. So start now if you're really looking to do a deal. And the seller concession things, it just depends on the property. I don't understand underwriting. Why is underwriting such an important part of the journey? Well, if you don't understand how to calculate your expenses and your debt service or your mortgage payments, along with the revenue, which are the 3 parts of underwriting, then how will you know if it's a good deal or not? right? So the better at underwriting you get, the less risk you take on with a deal working out or not. A lot of people are terrible at underwriting and they're really just gambling or risking, like taking on a lot of risk because they don't know if it's actually going to make sense or not. It's kind of like, let's wait and see. It doesn't work like that. That's why we use these pro formas to help us get a good idea, and we model out good, better, best from an expense, revenue, and purchase price ratio. Okay. How important is it to be reasonable commuting time for those large properties? 2 to 3 hours. Are you buying the property sight unseen? No. Well, I get them under contract sight unseen, and then I check them out during due diligence. So I definitely see them with due diligence. What are your thoughts on buying current operating STR? It can work. Let's say a location design, I'm going to stop sharing. Design decor is dialed in and maybe just needs an amenity add or two. What would you look at if to make sure the proper revenue? Okay, Brett, this is one you need to send me an email on. I'm going to put my email in the chat. Anybody who has like additional questions or deep dive questions, just reach out to me. I don't really care. I'm put it in the chat there. You're welcome to just shoot me the email, shoot me this exact question, and I will give you a better answer. I'm sorry. It's a pretty deep question. I want to answer it. Do you ever run MTR, LTR scenarios? No, I don't. What if your plan, if the city shuts down STR? I call the city. Well, I really try to only target short-term rent, like vacation rental markets. Fort Worth, you could argue, but like literally, like people are traveling there. It is a destination type area, and a residential area. But I'm targeting mainly vacation areas where people are traveling to enjoy. So like, I'm really trying to avoid cities and areas that are high density with people who could just flip and change the rules. It needs to be like, there needs to be an economy around traveling where they're like, have a positive sentiment towards it, not like, oh, great, just another Airbnb next door. So that's really important. That helps me avoid some of these things. Typical time frame for a client to be under contract, 35 days. For those of us that need 100 hours before the year end. So we have a full training in our program too that tells you how to get the 100 hours. Really easy, not that stressful. I even give you an example of how to get the 100 hours, which is awesome. From a client, it's like, look, this is what they do. You can copy it, throw it into ChatGPT. I break it all down for you. It's not that stressful. So just schedule a call. We can talk about it and I can show you everything. So guys, at the end of the day, I'm going to go back to this. If you have questions, comments, concerns, please schedule. Okay, we got a new link here. Great. Thank you. We got it figured out. Schedule a call. Let's talk. Let's figure this out. And let's chat again. I do have to jump, but I'm going to put this in the comments real quick. Where you can actually schedule at this link. This is an easier link. So yeah, grab this, send me an email if you have questions. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you learned something. If you're going to do this on your own, great. Good luck. Send me an email, shoot me the property. I'm happy to take a look at it, give you my thoughts just so you don't make a bad decision. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you on the next workshop or in the future, or maybe the STR Wealth Conference in 2 weeks if you're coming to that. Thanks everybody and have a great day.